Welcome to the TapDab Slugging League. This is a Mario Sluggers League that has its game simulated by the CPU as a CPU Gecko code, as well as a balance patch created by yours truly to improve players who would otherwise be dead weight. This may improve hitting and chemistry. Characters such as Wario and Waluigi may be lacking. This idea was originally popularised by the Akalan Slugging Association created by Akamos, and I owe him large thanks for heavily inspiring this project. This video will be addressing the format of the league and a breakdown of the teams drafted by our 8 GMs in what is sure to be an experience you don't want to miss, whether you're a Sluggers veteran or if this is your first experience with the game. Without further ado, here's our teams drafted in our league's first ever draft. We'll begin with my own team, the Tap Flowers. The decision to forego arguably the best player in the game in P.E. Piranha for the much less consistent Funky Kong is seen as a questionable decision within the league. However, with his new super dive ability and his sheer size, I believe having him alongside Boomerang Bro would make a good set of power hits to build around and a solid defensive core. I built a supporting cast of Blue Pianta, Purple Toad and Monty Mole, who with his new high trajectory is a very consistent slap hitter. With Sid Vislav and Baby DK being important chemistry links, this is quite the offensive squad, which is a pattern that will become very clear as we discuss the other teams. Light had the first pick of the draft, scooping up Bowser and becoming the monsters. Light was a master of comedic robbery, taking 3 of the 12 available captains and being the person who caused the Yoshi Claws to activate in the first place. The 2 captains obtained being Bowser Jr., a pick that makes sense, as what is Bowser without his son? And the oddball in this case, Luigi. Despite him not seemingly belonging in the final roster, it supports him nicely, with the remainder of the draft being a battalion of green chemistry in Green Dry Bones, Brock and the Green Lantern, allowing for a competent defense and great bursts of offense. Let's discuss their Yoshi Claws, shall we? The Yoshi Claws is only live when there is an equal number of captains to rosters requiring one. With Light stealing Luigi in the 5th round, this caused 4 GMs who are yet to draft a captain to be required to do so. And the GM most affected by this was the VGC Wilds, not because they did not have a captain as they selected Donkey Kong in the 1st round, but Diddy Kong was much needed pitching depth for the squad and it would be quite difficult to adapt to only having one pitcher. This caused the first trade in league history, but we'll get to that later. The VGC Wilds draft was still productive, selecting slap hitters in Red Pianta and Toad, and their new power hitter Dark Bones, with all 3 Cyan Miis and 2 Kongs in the form of Dixie and Tiny. This roster has formed to set up and pay off into what has potential to be a very consistent squad. Lee had a clear plan, draft the best available talent. A fairly obvious statement, but more difficult to execute when thinking about chemistry. Lee decided that was something to patch up in the later stages of the draft, creating by far the most offensively competent team in the league, with Firebro, Wriggler, King Boo, Brown Critter and Dry Bones all being selected. Diddy Kong was the captain due to, once again, the Yoshi Claws, and with supporting pieces in Red Paratrooper, Red Koopa and Mrs. Dab being important chemistry. This allows for a very threatening defense with Super Jump and an infield which might be impossible to get over. This is the team to look out for and by far the preseason favourite. Banana scooped up K-Wall and shockingly, 3 critters having the most brute force out of any team, all strong power hitters. Due to Yoshi Claws rearing its head once more, Banana selected the dino it's named after in Yoshi and acquired supporting pieces in Gramps, Blue Dry Bones and 3 additional Yoshis, aiming to set up true threats and brute force their way to a win. Jesse selected P.E. Piranha immediately after I let him fall to the 4th round of the draft. Jesse was the final victim of the Yoshi Claws having Mario as their pick and becoming the Fireballs. However, I think this is something that greatly benefited the team, getting such a solid captain when it comes to chemistry, with a secondary power hitter in Hammer Bro and great slapping threats in Green Toad, Blue Toad and Yellow Pianta, as well as pitching depth in Toadsworth and Baby Peach. This makes for a very, very balanced team, debatably the most when comparing offense and defense. Something that I've neglected to mention up until this point, and this is the snake draft. So how that works is, once it reaches the bottom of the lineup, the order reverses, allowing somebody to make 2 picks back to back. This allowed Varese Muscles to make Waluigi and Wario their first picks of the draft, selecting the latter to become their captain and becoming the Muscles. They took Chemistry and Boo and Blooper to fill in Chemistry, but in League history, the first ever trade was made. Remember it? It's called foreshadowing. Blooper was shipped off to VGC for pitching depth in exchange for the 6th and 8th round pick of the draft. From there, they went all in on defense, selecting the duo of Blue and Red Shy Guy and the baby brothers of Mario and Luigi, creating a competent infield and outfield respectively, with Carnage, Luigi and Gambler fitting in gaps of chemistry. This is by far the team with the most pitching depth. And the last GM we'll be covering, and certainly not the least of the GMs, is Lack, selecting Peach and Birdo in the first rounds and choosing Birdo to represent the team, becoming the Bows. They homed in on obtaining as much Peach chemistry as possible, obtaining Toadette, Yellow Toad for a potent outfield, and Pink Yoshi, Baby Daisy and Goober for infield and pitching respectively. With a strong combination of brown, yellow and peach chemistry, this team could be surprising to any that underestimate it. And that covers the first draft of our humble Sluggers League. If there's one thing this game has taught me, anything can happen on the unforgiving Sluggers Island, and I for one look forward to seeing how every team stacks up against each other. As for how the league will be structured, there will be 2 conferences, the Super and the Star Conference, paying homage to the original Mario baseball game for the GameCube, and every team will face everyone in their conference twice, and have 1 out of game conference against GMs that may not share it. After week 5 there will be the All-Star break, followed by the trade deadline a week after. Once all of the regular season has been played out and we know our teams participating after the regular season, we will have a play-in. Seeds 3 through 6 will play in a 9-inning game to try and obtain spots in the playoffs, with the top 2 teams automatically having a bye. As we get onto the playoffs, it will be a best of 3 for the semi-finals and a best of 5 for the finals, where we will truly know which team is the champions of the Tap Dab Sluggers League.